All right, so let's dive right in. We're heading over to Spain today. Lots of buzz about possible data breach, involving their tax agency. But get this, the only evidence so far, just a single screenshot. Someone found it on the dark web. No official statement yet from the agency, so yeah, it's getting everyone's attention. Real or not, we got to figure out what's going on here. What does this whole situation tell us about, like, cybersecurity in Spain?
It's kind of like that saying, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? But in cybersecurity, you can't just go off one screenshot. It's like trying to diagnose an illness from just like one symptom.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone's jumping to conclusions, right? It's a government agency, so big news. But you mentioned this whole thing doesn't really fit the typical ransomware MO. What makes you say that?
Well, usually these ransomware groups, they have a pattern, hit an organization, encrypt their data, demand a ransom, and if they don't pay up, they threaten to leak everything. Double extortion, that's what they call it. But this screenshot, there's no ransom demand. Weird, right? Instead, we've got this number, and they're claiming it's the tax agency's revenue, almost like they're boasting about how much it's worth.
Okay, so are they just showing off, like some kind of power moves instead of actual extortion?
Could be. That's what makes it tricky. Got to be careful about jumping to conclusions, We need more info. It could be a bluff, a distraction, or maybe even a whole new tactic we haven't seen before.
All right, so tons of unknowns still. But this screenshot, it definitely has everyone in cybersecurity talking, that's for sure. But here's the thing. Spain has, they've got a pretty strong cybersecurity setup, especially for like public entities. They've got this National Security Scheme, or ENS for short. It sets the bar high for organizations like the tax agency. What can you tell us about the ENS?
Basically, the ENS is Spain saying, hey, cybersecurity is important and we're serious about it. It requires a whole bunch of measures for public organizations. Certifications, security protocols, regular audits to make sure everything's up to par. Like, think of it as a system of checks and balances to minimize, weaknesses.
So they've got these safeguards in place. But is that enough? I mean, even with something like the ENS, could an attack of this scale still happen?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Even the best defenses can have holes. And sometimes it's not about breaking through the walls, it's finding a way around them, like through the supply chain.
The supply chain, what do you mean by that?
Okay, so think about it. The tax agency, they rely on a ton of third-party vendors, right? Software, cloud services, you name it. Each vendor is a potential way in for attackers, like a chain. Even if the agency has top-notch security, one weak link in their supply chain, and the whole system could be at risk.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Everything's so interconnected these days. So how do you even start to secure something as massive and complex as the supply chain?
That's a tough one. It's a whole new way of thinking about security, right? It's not enough to just focus on your own defenses anymore. You got to be just as tough on your partners, make sure they meet the same security standards.
So shared responsibility, like no one's an island in the digital world.
Exactly, and that's where these new EU regulations come in, things like NIS2. It's all about addressing these supply chain security risks, making it clear everyone has to do their part to protect the whole digital ecosystem.
Okay, so Spain has the ENS, NIS2 is coming, and they're pushing for stronger supply chain security. Are you optimistic about their cybersecurity overall? I mean, even with this potential breach looming?
I'd say so, yeah. They're definitely moving in the right direction. But there's always more to do. And that leads us to another big factor that's shaping the future of cybersecurity, something that could be both good and bad, a double-edged sword, artificial intelligence.
AI, huh? Okay, now we're talking. Seems like AI is everywhere these days. But how is it going to change things in the cybersecurity world?
Well, think of AI as like a tool, right? A really powerful tool. It can be used for good or bad. In the wrong hands, it could make these attacks way more sophisticated, harder to even detect,
So like giving cyber criminals superpowers, that's a little scary, honestly.
Yeah, it definitely raises the stakes. But there's a good side too. AI can be huge for the good guys too. Think about it. AI can analyze mountains of data, like instantly looking for those telltale signs of an attack. It's like having a whole army of digital detectives constantly watching, looking for threats.
So it's like a digital arms race then. Attackers and defenders both using AI to try and outsmart each other?
Exactly. But I think AI gives defenders a real advantage. We can analyze threats and respond way faster than humans ever could at a scale humans just can't match. AI can sift through all that data, find those tiny clues that might signal a breach, things that would take human analysts, like, forever to find.
Okay, that's actually pretty reassuring. Sounds like AI could be the key to staying ahead of these, constantly evolving threats. But even with all this AI talk, our sources kept saying the human factor is still a big deal in cybersecurity. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. Technology can only take us so far. Humans are often the weakest linked, right?
Yeah, like all those phishing scams that trick people into clicking bad links or giving away their information. That's not tech failing, that's people being tricked.
Exactly. So, you can have the best security system in the world, but if someone leaves the door unlocked, it's all for nothing.
So how do we fix that human factor? How do we make people more aware of the risks, less likely to fall for those traps?
Education, 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 that's key. Organizations need to invest in training, make security awareness part of their culture, give people the knowledge and skills they need to spot and avoid threats, turn them into that human firewall we talked about.
I like that, human firewall, and it brings up a really important point. This whole potential breach, real or not, it highlights something crucial about cybersecurity. It's not just about big organizations or government agencies. It affects everyone.
You got it. Cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility. We all got to play a part in protecting our digital lives.
So let's say I'm just an average person, not a cybersecurity expert. Why should I care about all this? How does it affect me every day?
Well, think about all the info you store online. Your bank details, social media, health records, all that stuff is valuable to cybercriminals. And they're always looking for ways to get in, exploit any weakness they can find.
Okay, so what can we do to protect ourselves? It can feel overwhelming, especially with all this talk about like fancy AI-powered attacks.
There are actually a lot of simple things you can do to improve your security. Start with strong passwords and make each one different. Don't use the same password for everything. Be careful about suspicious emails and links, and keep your software updated. Those updates often include security patches that can prevent attacks.
It's like locking your doors and windows, right? Might not stop a determined thief, but it makes it a lot harder to break in.
Exactly. Make yourself a less appealing target, reduce your risk.
Okay, so we've covered a lot: Spain's cybersecurity framework, the role of AI, the importance of human awareness, and some practical tips for staying safe online. What's the big takeaway here? What's the one thing we should remember from this deep dive?
I think the biggest takeaway is that cybersecurity is a journey. It's not a one-time thing. The threats are always changing, so we got to be adapting and learning all the time.
It's like staying fit, right? Can't just go in the gym once and expect to be in shape forever. Got to keep at it.
Exactly. It's an ongoing process. Stay informed, be careful, and be proactive about protecting yourself.
This has been a really interesting conversation. I've learned a ton, but before we wrap up, one last question for you. We've talked about AI's role in both attacking and defending. If AI keeps becoming more central to both sides, who do you think will win in the end, the attackers or the defenders?
Ooh, that's the big question, isn't it? The billion-euro question. Tough to say, for sure, really. I think it's going to be this constant back and forth, like a cat and mouse game, but in the digital world. As defenders come up with new AI tools, the attackers, they'll adapt, try to find ways around them.
So a real arms race, but with algorithms and data instead of like tanks and missiles.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing. I think AI actually gives defenders a big advantage, like a fundamental one. Think about it. AI can process info, spot those patterns way faster than humans ever could. It's like having a million us constantly scanning, learning, adapting to new tactics.
So even if AI makes attacks more, sophisticated, it also gives us a powerful way to fight back.
Exactly. It's not a magic solution, of course. We still need human experts, to make sense of the data, make the decisions, understand what it all means. But AI gives us this ability to see the whole battlefield in a way we never could before, with more clarity and precision.
That's a really interesting way to put it. So it's not about AI replacing humans. It's about AI helping us, making us better.
Right. Humans and AI working together, each doing what they do best. The future of cybersecurity, it's going to belong to those who can combine AI with human ingenuity and adaptability.
It makes me think about this potential breach in Spain. The tax agency, could AI have helped prevent it? Or maybe detect it sooner?
It's possible, yeah. Imagine an AI system watching the agency's network, looking for those little signs that something's wrong, those anomalies. Or an AI tool that could analyze the dark web, pick up on chatter about potential targets, give the authorities a heads up before an attack even happens.
So it's not just about reacting to attacks, but actually predicting them, maybe even stopping them before they start.
Exactly. That's where I see the real potential of AI shifting from being reactive to being proactive, getting ahead of the curve instead of always playing catch up.
This deep dive has been incredible. It's made me realize just how complex cybersecurity really is, especially with AI coming into play. But it's also given me hope. It feels like we have the tools, the knowledge to handle this new world.
I agree. It's a challenge, for sure, but it's exciting. And I believe that by embracing innovation, working together, and focusing on education, we can build a more secure digital future for everyone.
Well said. And to everyone listening, remember, cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility. Stay informed, stay alert, and stay curious. And if you're ever feeling lost or overwhelmed, There are experts and resources out there to help you navigate this complex world. That's it for our deep dive into cybersecurity. We hope you learned something new, and we'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.